Hello and a very warm welcome. Recently I heard a true story and to me it felt almost like a parable. It is about a man named Will Slattery who, after a plane crash, parachutes into the open sea. He barely managed to get free from the parachute, which would otherwise drag him down into the deep. Wearing nothing but swimming trunks, he is suddenly drifting in the middle of the open sea. He watches as the plane sinks, and then there is only water. He is just a tiny dot in the vast ocean. For hours he drifts there. He doesn't know where he is, not how far the shore is. Not even if there is a shore anywhere at all. Night comes and it gets cold. Then he floats right into a swarm of jellyfish. And as soon as he gets out, the next swarm arrives. The jellyfish sting him everywhere. He is in terrible pain, but he keeps swimming. It is pitch black. Later he said that in his whole life he had never felt so alone. Sometime during the night he suddenly sees lights. It's the shore. The shore is still far away, but it gives him a direction. And with direction, hope comes back. Then all of a sudden, something comes straight toward him. His breath stops. An animal? A saltwater crocodile, maybe? This thought flashes through his mind, but then it touches him, and he realizes it's not an animal. It's a piece of wood, a floating tree trunk in the middle of the sea. After 10 hours in the open water, Will can barely believe his luck. He clings to it like a drowning man. He cries, he loves, but mostly he feels deep relief. And there is hope again. Maybe this hopeless situation could turn out well after all. This wood saves him at first. It carries him. Now he can rest. Exhausted, he falls asleep while hanging onto the wood. The next morning, he has some strength back, and in the distance, he sees the beach. Now he tries to push the tree trunk ahead of him toward the coast like a life ring. Later he jokes that in his mind he already saw himself sitting in a beach bar with a drink, survived, saved. But then the current changes. The tree trunk is now pulled out again and again, back into the open sea. And with the tree trunk, Will is also pulled back out. Then he realizes something very important. As long as he holds onto this wood, he won't get where he actually wants to go. He won't reach the shore. He is drifting in the opposite direction. And suddenly he faces an almost unimaginable choice. Let go or keep hanging onto the wood. Later he says it was the hardest decision of his life, because if he lets go, the tree trunk floats away, and then he is back without any support. But if he holds on, this exact wood will drag him further and further out. More than once he tries to let go. 3 times. And every time he swims right back and grabs it again. Because it feels like rescue, like safety, like survival. And because there is fear, great fear, but then he truly lets go. He watches as the wood drifts away from him, further and further away, until it finally disappears on the horizon. Then he turns around and swims toward the shore. But soon after, his strength fades. Now he knows there is only a short moment left. Then I will drown. He is simply too exhausted to keep himself above water any longer. And he begins to hallucinate. He sees a boat. But he doesn't know if it's really there or if his mind is just making it up. Still he calls out as loud as he can. But his voice is only weak. Then his strength leaves him completely. He turns onto his back and lets go completely. Either he gets saved or he will drown. At the very last moment, hands reach out for him. Fishermen pull him out of the water. They happen to be there by chance. And they wouldn't have seen him if he had still been hanging onto that tree trunk. This story to me has a lot to do with Dhamma, because often the things we hold onto are not simply bad. Some things really carried us for a while. They stabilized us. They helped us get through something difficult. And that is exactly why letting go is often so hard. If something had only harmed us, we would probably give it up much easier. But many things we attach to once made sense. And right there lies the tragedy of upadana, of attachment, grasping and holding on. We often hold onto something that we mistake for safety. A self-image, a role, a story about who we are, or strategies that once helped us deal with pain. Maybe by withdrawing, maybe by trying to please everyone. Maybe we hang onto something material that was once necessary, but today only weighs us down. Something that carried us in the past, but today keeps us away from the shore. Even if this holding on has long been feeding suffering, in the mind, it still feels like safety. Right here in the Dhamma, the conditions for dukkha, for suffering, are fed. Not only where it openly hurts, much sooner already where the mind grasps for something. Without this, I cannot be. I must not lose this. It should stay this way. It shouldn't be like this. That is tanha, thirsting craving, wanting to have, wanting to hold on to, wanting things to be different. In the Dhamma, we can observe this precisely. There is contact. From that, feeling arises, pleasant, unpleasant, or neither unpleasant nor pleasant. And that is easily followed by craving. We want to hold on. We want to push away. We want it to be different. This is how the conditions for suffering are fed. It was exactly the same for the man in the sea. The tree trunk was not the problem. The wood was a help at first. The problem was that everything had changed. The conditions had changed. Only the holding on did not. What protected us yesterday can become a chain today. What helped yesterday doesn't have to be helpful today. Even what once helped can later become something we cling to. The helpful tool is there for crossing over, not for clinging. The Buddha does not simply teach, let go of everything. He shows something more subtle. Look closely. See what feeds suffering. Not everything that once carried us can also bring us all the way to the shore. That's why letting go doesn't always feel peaceful. Often it feels more like having no ground under our feet. The mind says, if I let go of this, I will drown. And that's why letting go usually doesn't happen in one single, clear, clean step. Often it is not like that. We try, then we reach back for it. We loosen our grip, then fear comes. Then we hold on tight again. And yet, slowly, wisdom can grow. Wisdom doesn't mean that there is no more fear. Wisdom means that we see deeper than fear. The man in the sea did not let go because he knew a boat would come. He let go because he realized, if I hold on, I won't reach the shore. But if I let go, there is at least a chance that I will make it. Maybe that is also for our own life an important question. Am I still holding on to something that was actually just a temporary help? What old story about myself do I still use like a rescue, even though it has long moved me away from my goal? When we see this, space opens up. Space for honesty. Space for truth. We don't have to hate the thing anymore that once saved us. We can be grateful to it. And we can let it go anyway, not out of ingratitude, but because we are ready for the next step, away from the wood, toward the shore. See clearly. Breathe. Trust. And slowly open your hand.